Our first lightning talk speaker is Xiaoyu, a talent native mobile engineer with a passion of building seamless and accessibility Android experience. In this session, she will share how accessibility is not just a feature, it's a mindset. She will explore why designing with inclusivity in mind matters more than ever, and how it can truly make a difference in people's life. So please join me in welcoming Xiaoyu to the stage.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Xiaoyu. Welcome to this lightning talk, Beyond the Screen, Creating Android Experience for All. I'm an Android engineer who's passionate about building inclusive mobile experience that everyone can enjoy. Today, I will cover a few things around this topic I'm really passionate about, Android accessibility. We'll start with what accessibility is, and we'll talk about why it matters. And finally, we'll wrap up with some practical steps that you can take to make your app more accessible. When we think about Android development, most of us will picture beautiful layouts, colors, or smooth animations on the screen. But the truth is, user experience goes far beyond the screen, and accessibility is what makes it possible for everyone. Now, I'd like to do a quick survey. Could you raise your hand if you have heard about TalkBack before? Oh, I got a few hands. What about any one of you have used TalkBack? Okay, that's good. If you haven't experienced TalkBack before, then you're in the right place. For me, the moment I learned about TalkBack, it completely shifted the way I look at Android development and the way I see technology in general. Today, I'm inviting you to join me. Together, we will look beyond the screen and see how accessibility helps make our app better. Let's start with what accessibility is. Accessibility is about designing Android app experiences that everyone can use, no matter their ability or circumstances. Every single day, billions of people open up Android apps on their phone. Our Android users are a pretty diverse group. Not every single user experiences the Android app the same way. Some of them using their sight, some of them use touch, some of them using their voice, and some using a combination of all the above. So with that in mind, let's take a quick look at some common accessibility features on Android and see how they help support different users with different needs. First, there is voice access, which allows users to fully control their device using their voice. And then we have live caption. It will automatically caption the video and audio, so making the content more accessible for people with hearing difficulties. And also, for those who can't rely on touch, Android also offers tools like keyboard access or switch access to allow users to interact with the apps in this alternative way. Last but not least, we have TalkBack, which is Android built-in screen radar. You can think of TalkBack as the voice of your phone. It reads out what is on the screen and gives the feedback like vibration or sound or audio so the people who can't see can still interact with their phone. Unlike the other features that work mostly behind the scene, TalkBack gives us the opportunity as developers to make a real impact. Later in this talk, we're going to dive deeper into it a little bit more. But altogether, all these accessibility features make Android devices usable for everyone, no matter how they interact with their device. Great, so far we have covered what accessibility is. Now let's move on to the next question. Why does it matter? The State of Mobile App Accessibility Report shows that 72% of mobile user journeys had accessibility barriers. It means nowadays, most apps still fail to provide an inclusive experience for users with disabilities. That's a huge gap. To put it in a bigger picture, the World Health Organization reports that 2.2 billion people worldwide live with some form of vision impairment. Imagine trying to use the bank app when you can't see the number clearly, or navigating a government service app that doesn't support larger text. For many people, those barriers don't just mean inconvenience or frustrations. They lock people out of the essential part of their daily life. Accessibility isn't just a nice to have, it's essential. We just learned that large number of people in this world rely on accessibility to live their normal life. But in reality, accessibility doesn't just benefit a small group. It makes the experience better for all of us. Now let's think about accessibility features that we all use every day, like captions, then you watch the video in a noisy place, or if you forget your headphones on the train like me. High contrast colors make the screen easy to read, even in bright sunlight. And large touch target will help us touch buttons correctly, even when walking or using the phone with one hand. Before learning about accessibility, I took all these features for granted, and they may seem simple, but they are actually thoughtfully designed to make the apps work for everyone in every situation. Designing with accessibility in mind means designing for inclusion. It creates better experience for everyone, including ourselves. Accessibility isn't just a checklist, it is a mindset. So now we understand what it is and why it matters. Let's move on to the exciting part. How do we actually build an accessible app? The good news is, once you keep accessibility in mind, applying it into our daily Android development becomes much easier than you think. Let's dive in. Let's start with a simple one. Add a meaningful content description to icons and images in your app. Imagine you have an icon button. In this case, it's an arrow back. For someone who can't see, we know it's clear what that icon means. But for someone using TalkBack, the same icon is just an empty space, unless we tell them what it is for. That's why it's our job as developer to provide the actual context, to describe what those visual elements mean, especially for images and icons or illustrations in your app. In Jetpack Compose, we can easily update the now from navigate up in this case. You can see the difference once you turn on the TalkBack on your phone. As you can see before on the left, the text there shows what the TalkBack announced. Button, double tap to activate. And after the changes, you can see on the right, it will announce navigate up button, double tap to activate. This transforms that silent icon into something meaningful. So TalkBack users now know exactly what is on the screen and what's that button for. One thing to note is the screen readers like TalkBack will automatically announce both the UI type and description. It makes it more easier for us because all we have to do is to provide the description, navigate up, and the rest will be handled by TalkBack automatically. Next one I want to talk about is color contrast. Take a look at the slide. Some text blends into the background, but the others stand out because they have strong contrast. Color contrast isn't just about how things look, it's really about making the text easy to read. According to the WCAG guidelines, regular text should have a minimum contrast ratio of 4.5 to 1, and for other text, it should be at least 3 to 1. As a developer, we need to make sure our app has good color contrast. You can check the color contrast in your app by using some online color checker tools or accessibility scanner app on Android. And don't just stop there. Have a chat with your designer next time if you see ways to improve the color contrast in your app. Ask questions and work together with them to make your app more accessible. Good color contrast isn't just for people with visual impairment. It helps everyone, even in the bright sunlight. Next is an interesting one. Have you ever tried tapping a tiny icon button and hitting the wrong one? I see a few notes there. This happens to me every single day, and I'm sure some of you can relate as well. That brings us to the next step that I want to talk about, that we can make our app more accessible. Android recommends a minimum touch target of 48 dp to create enough space for most fingers to tap comfortably and correctly. And larger is even better. Let's look at an example. On the left, you will notice that the cross icon in the UI has a very small touch target. To increase the touch target size of this icon, we can simply apply the padding. But in this case, there's actually an easier way to make sure the touch target meets the requirement. It's just to use the material component icon button, which will take care of for us. Now, if we test with TalkBack again, you can see the cross icon has the 48 dp touch target and easier to touch. Next, let's look at something invisible to us, the structure of your layout. How do you group in your content? Because accessibility isn't just what users hear, but also how they hear it. Because TalkBack will announce the component on the screen one after another. And if we know Jetpack Compose, a component can have multiple composables in there, each with its own meaning, but together they might form a logical group. And in this case, we want TalkBack to treat them as one element. And this is where the semantics modifier comes in. Using semantics and merge dissidence, we can help TalkBack to understand how everything fits together. Let's look at an example. Let's say we have a composable that shows a user's avatar, their name, and some extra information. Visually, it looks fine to us. But for TalkBack users, it can sound like a mix of random elements putting together, making the screen really hard to follow. Now, with semantics and merge dissidence in the code there, TalkBack will see the whole container as a single, clear element. Navigation will become smoother and much easier to follow. All right, let's have a quick recap of what we discussed. Label your image and icons, have a good color contrast, and make sure your touch target is big enough. And last but not least, try to use semantics and merge distance to grouping your content to make it more sense for the TalkBack. One thing I do want to mention is accessibility isn't just the engineering effort. It is a shared responsibility across the team, including design, product, and engineering. If your design system isn't already usable and thinking about accessibility, that's your opportunity to sit down with your design team and start the conversation to try to figure out how you can make your component or your app more inclusive. Together, we can bridge the gap in technology, access, and opportunity. Here are the links if you want to learn more details about what we mentioned in this talk, and feel free to check them out if you want to learn more about accessibility. I see a lot of people taking photos. I'll stay for 1 minute there. Okay. Cool? All right, got it? All right. Before we go, I have a challenge for you. Today, after this talk, close your eyes and try to use your app using TalkBack on. And thanks everyone for joining. I'm really glad to see that you already taken the first step toward building a more accessible app by joining this talk and make the world a better place. Thank you.